Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette, and we're so glad you're with us to stay curious. Got beside me here our good friend Mikey
Good
Haddad.
to be back, Mark.
Mikey Haddad worked in the level 4 of the Space Shuttle Processing Facility, right? And worked on all the payloads, not all of them, but he worked on a good majority of the payloads that flew the shuttle, has written this book. Don't have a space lab payloads. You can get this on Amazon Smile, as us is your favorite
There you go.
nonprofit. Mikey, how are you? And how's your book doing? And
Doing great, doing great. Yeah, a lot of accesses from the publisher site, which is Springer, and then a lot of good reviews on Amazon. So yeah, a friend of mine just
yeah, we got a touchy
working
microphone
now.
there.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I had a good friend of mine, Nicole Elner, who's basically she's works scientist. She was one of the scientists for Astro. Put out a nice review for my book, so it was good. It's very sweet of her to do that for me.
Well, that's good, and you should have good reviews. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's become a great friend of Stay Curious in our museum. Mikey, we're always glad that you can come and share a little bit about the shuttles every month and some of their payloads. What we got behind us, a green screen there with a bunch of workers climbing all over the payload bay. You're going to show us that picture and explain it, but any
Yes, sir.
comment about, is any of them you there? Or?
No, none of those are me, but it's a good picture to show just some of the variety of this payload of this mission it flew, all the different kind of payloads it flown.
And the guy above my head there he's on some structure that is not part of the shuttle, of course. You had to
Right.
build scaffolding and all kinds of high-tech little platforms, correct?
Well, actually, this is a picture from inside the orbiter processing facility, and these are fixed platforms that we call the 13 platforms, basically level 13 platforms. See the guy laying on his belly,
Mm-hmm.
and it was basically went over the door, and that's how we got a lot of access
Okay.
to the edge of the shuttle, and that a lot of our work were done from those platforms. They're called 13s. 13
They're
platforms.
called,
Yeah.
why?
I think it was a level 13 on the way the drawing and all the mechanics worked. 'Cause that was the 13th level, so we call them 13 platforms.
Very pragmatic, these
So those are
NASA
very,
people,
very
and
handy.
what
Oh,
they name
yeah.
things on
Those are
there.
critical to have those in there. Yep.
Uh,
Excuse me.
Well, Mikey, we're going to be talking. Let me go back one here. Yeah, no, we're going to be talking about Shuttle Fest 2 until we pull it off on Saturday, April 15th.
It'll be fun.
This is going to be we hope, a love fest every year for space workers like you on the Space Coast.
Mhm.
And this year we're going to feature the movie documentary Base to Space about the mobile launch platform number 2. And our good friend Mike Cotton, that's a documentary maker, has done that.
Oh,
and
sweet.
So we're going to get workers in on the platform there. This beautiful and Miklos photographs there. That is Atlantis coming out for 135 launch.
Oh, the last mission.
Image back there, yeah.
That's sweet.
That gorgeous.
Very nice.
I imagine you're in the crowd there somewhere.
Yeah, it was special for that last rollout, and of course when she came home. And the good story is when they were basically sitting outside the OPF, and they had the NASA administrator there, and they were talking about Atlantis and the end of the program. And it was a lot of people. Of course, it was sad, but it was very, the program was ending. But he said, "Oh yeah, by the way, when Atlantis is done processing, it's staying here
Great.
in Florida." And the place just erupted, knowing that we were able to keep an orbiter here in Florida. Now,
Yeah.
of course, that's on display at the visitor centers.
Not a foregone conclusion either,
No, it wasn't. No,
absolutely,
sir.
because Johnson Space Center does not have an orbiter there.
Yeah, we
Much
were.
to their angst, but it was how'd they decide that?
I don't know. I don't know. I know we had a team of people that led a proposal, which ended up being an Atlantis exhibit that they took, I think, to NASA headquarters, and they made a real push to be able to keep one of the orbiters here. And so I think they had a big part in making Atlantis being able to stay here at Kennedy. Yeah.
Of course, Discovery is in Udvar-Hazy at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., and Endeavour is at a very other popular mega population center, Los Angeles, at the Space Science Museum. That's why they're there.
Yes.
They wanted to maximize the number of people seeing them. And Houston has a 747 with the mock-up out there, the transporter. Well, Mikey, we love talking about the shuttles of the month. That's why we have you on once a month. Here it is, the last day of the month. but that doesn't matter. We still had a great January was a great beginning month for shuttle achievements. 10 space shuttles launched in the month, of course. The two tragedies were launched in this month. Two mere space station exchanges of astronauts. We had some very interesting space labs. That we had the Space Hab, of course, that flew on STS-107, and the International Microgravity Lab is on STS-42. Did you have anything to do with any of these? I see that's and the retrieval of the LDEF, the Long Duration Exposure Facility, up there, STS-32.
Yeah, I helped out a little bit with the post-flight stuff when it came back into the operations and checkout building. Kind of unloaded it there. And it was neat to see that after all that time it was in space, see what kind of condition it was in.
They're talking about the LDEF up there.
Yeah. In fact, we're still looking for the structure. We're not sure exactly what happened to the basic structure. No, the sciences and experiments all got kind of sent back and sent to where they're supposed to go post-flight. But the actual structure is still looking for to see where that may be.
It came back from space, of course, but physically, where's it at?
Where's it at now after all these years?
Wow, and you're involved with the Astro Telescope, too, trying to find its pieces and parts.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we're doing the Astro Restoration Project out of Marshall Space Flight Center right now. Eventually, it's going to end at the Smithsonian in D.C. But yeah, we're looking for a couple parts, one of them being the integrated radiator system that was part of Astro. We're not sure what happened to it. So we're putting together a little package, trying to send it out to museums and that to see if somebody bought it and it's in a museum, if somebody bought it off of scrap and they're using it as a flower pot. But we're looking for that still. If we can't find it, of course, we'll duplicate it. But we'd like to find the flight one. So
well, we'll do a show on that one day, Mikey. Some of these pieces and parts. I mean, that long duration exposure facility was like 8-sided big structure that filled the whole cargo bay, almost over 40 feet long, 15 feet wide. And it was supposed to be up there for like a little under a year and ended up being up there 4.5 years, caught in the Challenger. But paints, materials, plastics, metal, all kinds of polymers,
all kind of
tomato seeds.
Tomato seeds and stuff.
Were all exposed to long duration, so it probably ended up being better than what they wanted, getting all that extra time of harsh to space. And you can't find the structure, that huge. That's why
it's probably somewhere. We just started it. I mean, literally within days we've started looking for it. So we'll see when we'll find it.
Well, I find that fascinating. Well, the January shuttles, we're going to feature the science on 61C here in just a minute, but all 5 orbiters were launched. They orbited 78 days. 56 people orbited, can say, hey, in January I was orbiting the Earth. 56 people can say that. And we're going to talk today about this all-star crew. That I say all-star crew. Bob Sinker there on the far left is the only one who didn't fly again. You have seated there Charlie Bolden, who's a pilot and later became NASA administrator. Also seated is Hoot Gibson, who has had an illustrious career as, I think, 5 shuttle missions. Then he became a Southwest airline pilot.
Yes, sir. Yep, sure did.
All right. Beside him, above my head, is Franklin Chang Diaz, his first of a record 7 flights. He and Jerry Ross are the most launches of any American. And let's see, in the back row, left to right, is NASA Administrator Bill Nelson. And, of course, Charlie Bolden become a NASA Administrator. And in the middle is Steve Hawley, a very experienced astronaut involved with the Hubble telescope and astronomer, once married to Sally Ride. And Pinky Nelson. 2 Nelsons there. And Nelson did a manned maneuvering unit spacewalk for the first time. So, but you're going to tell us a little bit about the science they did. So take it away, Mikey.
Okay, yeah, we started with the mission patch, which is the ones you've seen a lot of. And what it is, I went ahead and added in some of the other patches, like the next couple slides show like the payload. We started looking at having payloads. So this is MSL, which is Material Science Lab, MSL2, which flew on this flight. So this is just a patch that was created for that specific payload.
Patches are cool. Okay. Marty, you've got a comment or question from somebody.
Yeah, we had a question from Bill Whiting. Is Mikey's book available at the ASM?
It was here.
We have a.
I think there's a couple
We'll
that-
check and I'll let you know, Bill.
I've got one with me, so there'll be at least one more here.
Okay, all right.
If you don't.
You've got one here to buy.
But
so.
if you need to, we can get more here. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
To answer that
yeah,
question.
we
Yep,
need
we
to
sure
get
can.
on it. Thank you. Yes, and Marty. All right, keep our volume up.
Okay, keep talking.
All right.
So this is basically the MSL2 patch. And so I guess the next one would be one of the hitchhikers. This is a kind of a payloads. These are the payloads that Level 4 Space Lab kind of worked. And then I'm also going to talk about a couple others that flew on this flight. So, but these were the main two patches that we would kind of the hardware we worked on for that flight.
May I interject there that this was the last flight before the Challenger's demise.
Yeah.
This was riding a high wave that these hitchhiker spacecraft, I could create a spacecraft and pay NASA to put it on
Yes.
a shuttle, right?
Right. And that's
As long as I had the money to do it and
Mhm.
they approved what I was doing
Yep.
in there, or would they even have to know what was in the can?
Well, there was approval process for that, and also the getaway specials, which are the gases
And
on this flight, which is again exactly what you just said, Mark.
We
you
thought
could be
this was
anybody.
going to be everyone would have access to
Yep.
space for experiments and so forth.
Yep.
Everyone come aboard, forget the single stick rockets, and then 12 days later, after this mission landed, was a disaster of Columbia.
Challenger. This is a configuration. This is a really neat mission because there's a lot of different hardware that flew on this flight, a lot of different kind of payloads. The bottom, the stuff you see on the front, the bottom is basically what flew in the mid deck. What we're going to talk about there is what's HHG1, which is Hitchhiker. That was kind of the location where Hitchhiker flew. And then just behind that was MSL2. Again, those are kind of the hardware that Level 4 specifically worked on. Then you got a deployable satellite, the SATCOM, which is kind of cool. And then the Getaway Special Bridge. And we'll stay on this just for a sec because I want to talk about the gas bridge. And then there's one individual gas can back there. Kind of what happened, what they used to do was, for CG purposes, they used to fly metal plates back there in the back of the orbiter, in the payload bay, for CG purposes. Well, they
CG.
said center of gravity.
Oh.
They needed more weight in the back of the shuttle for that mission for whatever reason. Maybe there was more stuff
Oh,
flying
so
up
they
front.
actually have dummy pallets or stuff to distribute the weight.
They
Huh?
actually bolted to the side where you see that gas that says gas 1. It was bolted to the
Never
side.
knew
What
that.
they called
Wow.
side mounts. Well, he says, well, wait a sec. We got these things called getaway specials. Why don't we fly experiments instead of just metal? And so you'll see a lot of these missions, we flew gas cans in the aft to help with the CG of the missions. And I want to specifically talk about that.
Well, there's a picture of that coming up, too.
Yeah, this picture coming up, and also the gas bridge. A lot of the gas cans flew on side mounts, which is like the Hitchhiker and that. But we also had this gas bridge, which is you fly 12 gas cans at the same time. We'll talk about what gas cans are. Basically, they were, like Mark said, they're a very cheap way. Was for 200 pounds you spend $10,000, get your experiment in orbit. For 100 pounds you can spend $3,000, and for 60 pounds you can spend $1,000 and get an experiment to fly inside these cans. These gas cans were basically self-contained. Everything kind of happened in the can. All the
You just
instrumentation.
call them gas. They don't have gases in them. You just call them a gas can because they look like it.
Well, gas can because it was getaway special.
Oh,
Gas
I
is
got you.
gas is an
Getaway,
acronym for
GAS,
yeah, it's for
okay.
getaway special.
Whew,
So again,
Marty.
you don't want to keep talking. You don't want to say that every time. So we'd say gas
Yeah,
can.
well, I just want to say gas can, and we're not going and getting
No, sir.
a gallon of gas for $5.
No, sir. No, this is basically
but I
getaway
thought because they
special.
look like it. All right, getaway special GAS.
But what's neat is, like you said, is they can fly anything in here as long as it's self-contained. And the difference kind of between the gas cans and Hitchhiker, for gas cans, they were kind of, everything was kind of self-contained. You'd read out after the mission. For the Hitchhiker, you actually had download instrumentation. You had more of a capability with Hitchhiker. So I think his gas is kind of very simple, like you're saying, a way to get into space. Hitchhiker is more complex,
Okay.
more expensive, but it gives you more capability. So I just wanted to bring those up.
An inert experiment that's just maybe wanting to gather cosmic rays in some gel or something.
Interesting, they could be multiple things. You can be very simple, it can be very complex. You can have ones that are basically solid containers. You can have ones with deployable lids. You can have ones that have a clear lid to look through.
Oh.
Okay, so you have all these options to fly, as well as the getaway specials were like that. In fact, when in the chart coming up, I'll show you kind of what I mean. Okay, so the next one is basically was the prime one we worked on, which is MSL. Now, there's a lot of small text here, but again, this is using the multiple peculiar equipment support structure. That's what we call it, MPES. I want to keep saying that every time. The basic MPES, which is on the bottom of the figure there. That's kind of the basic structure with some of the subsystem hardware mounted to it. Again, you started with the basic structure and you put the subsystem hardware on, which is kind of the bottom there. And then the top picture is once you start integrating more of the hardware, experiments, electronics. And so the top picture is actually kind of how it flew. So you can see, again, an MPES with this hardware on it was made up the material science laboratory that you see at the top. This MPES was also used for the gas bridge. When you see those 12 gas cans, it started out with an MPES. So again, this gives you, all that capability from the basic structure. And I wanted to point that out initially. And again, a lot of work to get this all together and tested for flight. So that was one of the payloads.
Now,
The main payload.
just to jump forward, I know these gas cans were completely
Self-contained.
and I mean after Challenger, did they ever come back into the mix again?
Good question. I think there was ones that flew after Challenger.
But the programs were over, really.
Well, what they did is they had more scrutiny. Is anything else after Challenger? You had more scrutiny on what flew. But again, those were things that were basically self-contained, so they were pretty safe. Okay. Now this is a breakdown of Hitchhiker G1. Again, that was called side mount. It doesn't stretch across the payload bay. It's mounted to one side or the other. And this one specifically, Hitchhikers were starboard forward on the shuttle. They were mounted to the shuttle bay. And if you look on the back there, you see these plates that got kind of holes and spaces in them. Those are the basic Getaway Special mounting plates, gas plates that would mount to the shuttle, and then you'd mount hardware to that. And this is basically the Hitchhiker G1 configuration for Mission 61C. And so again, that's something that and then the next picture, which is great, shows you that basic gas beam there. You see mounting to the orbiter, and then the other buildup of the hardware before the actual electronics, avionics box goes on there and the experiments go on there. So again, it was complex things that had to happen, even though it was a kind of a cheap way to fly. There's a lot of things that had to happen to get this in the shuttle, and of course wired up to work. And so I wanted to show this is kind of a breakdown. This is everything behind the experiments that you had to put in place before the Hitchhiker itself got installed.
And every bolt, every screw turned and so forth is like 3 people involved in it.
Very, very procedures. Everything has to be bought off.
I mean, I'm talking about the person turning the bolt.
Yes.
The NASA inspector watching him turn the bolt, and then the contractor maybe looking over that shoulder.
Well, the contractor mostly doing the work in NASA.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So basically, So the contractor basically worked. A lot of this would be the orbiter people. The hardware would get turned over to the orbiter people, and they'd bolt it in, or the Goddard. These Hitchhikers and Getaway Specials were out of the Goddard Space Flight Center.
So you'd have to just do this procedure, folks. You'd have a little piece of paper that had your little rubber stamp things okayed on.
All those steps, every bolt that's turned, how much you torque the bolt, when you torque the bolt, all that kind of stuff was done to get all this hardware to go together. They wonder why.
Someone's taking a picture of this all the time too, usually, aren't they, Mike?
Well, we got pictures of it. Yep. The next one shows this is kind of the installation. You can see this again, a shuttle bay kind of on the bottom there. You can see
I counted 9 people there.
Yeah, all those people that are again. You got access platforms from the bottom, and again, the person that's laying down and the 2 on the top right. Those are on what they call the 13 platforms. So again, you got to get access all around this hardware to be able to get it in there.
They're putting in on the side of the shuttle this
Hitchhiker.
This
is a photograph of them installing Hitchhiker.
That we talked about right there.
Yeah, all that stuff is being. That's a picture of it being installed.
There.
Yep,
Yeah,
which is a great picture.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the next one is actually just a close up. But once that hardware gets in there, this is basically what it looks like for flight. And again, you can see the platforms up with the C clamps holding access platforms to get us as close as we can. See that?
Marty, point out that yellow C clamp up there.
See the yellow C clamps?
There, get Marty, wake him up over there. Yeah.
So you got the 13 platforms behind it. Then you have the diamond plate thing there. There's
a C clamp.
That was C clamp to the 13s to get us extra access farther out.
That's to hold you guys up there, the guy leaning over in our picture there. Wow.
So that's a great picture of the flight hardware and all the ground support equipment. Now, again, give you an idea. You're looking at the side of the shuttle. The wing is underneath the platform. So the wings the doors are open, and the wing is underneath there, and the platform's over the top of the doors to give you an orientation there. Okay, this one is the gas bridge. This is going in a payload canister.
There's what we were talking about.
And this is what we were talking about. And it's really neat. This picture shows a lot of, it's not that good because it's the black and white, but it shows you a lot of things. It shows 12 Getaway Specials gas cans. Okay, now you look at the gas cans themselves, and they're all kind of different. You look at some that kind of look like they got a black feature on there. There's 3 of them that got that black. That's actually a door that opens up.
Okay, the little hinge.
The little hinge door that if you want to deploy stuff or
Marty,
if you just want to
point
expose
those
stuff.
Out. You understand that doors, the little hinges above me.
Yep,
like
that's
right
it. Yeah, those
right
3. Okay, so you got those, which basically lids can open up to either deploy stuff or look at things. You see ones that got kind of silver tops.
Yep.
Okay, those are basically non-insulated tops where you can have just that. You could put an experiment on there where that silver stuff is, or you can put a clear glass in there to shoot, to basically you take observations through it. Okay, and then you got the one kind of in the middle there. Well, it's a third one. It's basically the third one from on the right side. It's got kind of a white top. And that's what we're going to talk about real quick. That's called G07. That one, again, had a thermal top on it. So you can see all these different configurations you can do for getaway specials depending on what you want to fly. So this is a really good picture showing some of those options you have for getaway specials. Okay. Now this is kind of inside of G07, which is that one I was telling you, that third one in the platform. It kind of shows that there's actually 4 different experiments inside this one can. So now you got 12 gas cans. One of them has 4 experiments just by itself.
And that was
and this is basically showing the details of the inside of that.
You
the
see,
one that's got the white top on it.
Yeah.
With the little, it looks like an ID tag on there. That's that inside of that can that flew. And then it actually got photographs.
What are the experiments? You can tell us? Or...
Yeah, I could read them off there. There's it's here. They have one that's basically it's a what is it?
Is this a university,
it's
business?
It's basically this one. Well, shuttle student experiments, which some of them are from students. Talk about lead and alloy copper alloys. A second experiment is basically radishes seeds. So if you look on there, there's radish seeds that they were doing experiments with.
Okay.
A third one is growing crystals, and actually the fourth one is actually the Marshall Amateur Radio Club. It has basically like a ham radio kind of setup. So you can see a very different complement of experiments in this one can. And now you got 12 cans on this bridge.
Mikey,
so
this was a 6-day mission.
Mm-hmm.
So these experiments were designed for that
length
of time.
That length of time. And then this next one is actually a photograph. If you go down, that's all the basically graphics. And here's actually what it looks like inside there. So it just gives you a good example of the hardware itself that flew on that one getaway special. It flew on 61C.
Interesting.
So yeah, and it was a very, very successful program. A very easy way to fly things cheaply and still get the results. And
to your knowledge, has this been continued on the International Space Station?
I don't think so. I think there's maybe an offshoot of this has. But again, this is a little bit more than what Level 4 did. I mean, this is some of the things I worked on once I left Level 4. There was some interaction between Level 4 and us, but I wanted to show just this is another payload complement, another option you had for flying payloads on the shuttle, which is amazing. Getaway Special was and this is actually off a different mission, but I wanted to get you some good clear pictures of what these gas cans look like. So this is basically, that's all I wanted to show, is kind of a nice clear picture. You see the thermal.
Would the scientific investigators be present to in the payload SPF there? SPF
at times, yes, sir. Yeah, what they would do is Goddard would integrate the insides of the payload, so the payload developer would be there when everything went inside those payloads. And then it was our responsibility, of course, to install them in the shuttle. And one of my responsibilities was then to test the commanding between the aft flight deck and these gas payloads. So that was kind of what we did. It was kind of a combination of a lot of Goddard interaction, the orbiter people interaction, our interaction, to kind of get it all tested and fly. Yep.
Well, I think it's kind of sad we've lost that connection, it seems, though.
Yeah, it's
in this.
I think they've got something that's similar to this, but it was basically built for the shuttle. And once we went past the shuttle, and this is the final image showing that hardware on orbit. You see the MSL-2 there with the chambers, the 4 different chambers, the satellite enclosed in its enclosure there behind it, and then you could barely see the top of the hitchhiker there off to the very foreground on the left. It's just a beautiful picture of all that hardware on orbit. So again, it's this 61C had a real variety of payloads that was really special to fly and see.
And all successful.
Yes.
I mean, this was a nominal mission. As we say, it landed 12 days before Challenger was launched on January 28th. It landed the 18th. Actually, about 10 days before on there. And they also investigated Comet Halley on this mission. There was a Comet Halley active monitoring program, CHAMP experiment, a 35 millimeter camera. And then some infrared imaging on this, and they flew some shuttle student involvement program, and then your gas, the getaway specials there. Well, we hope that you've all enjoyed this today. Christopher Mick is watching in Wisconsin.
Okay.
Where they got some storms going on across our nation in Texas, sleet and stuff. My sister
Oops.
in San
Hope
Angelo,
they're okay.
hope she's all right. Hazel Banks is watching. Hey, Hazel, we love you here at our museum. Tom UCX watching in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Margot Watson, good to see you. Staying curious, Margot. And read a couple others.
Wait, I'm
there.
so bad with names, but I'll try here. Oh, Robert Law.
He's in Dundee, Scotland. He never
Oh.
misses a Mikey show. I'll tell you that.
Welcome. Thank you very much, Robert, for doing that. Appreciate that. Doug Forrest,
He's in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Okay, welcome, Doug. Bill Whiting.
Bill Whiting's just nearby here. He's going to buy one of your books.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I could say it. And if it's not here, I could bring more to the museum. So just ask Mark.
Sure.
Cynthia Rossi. Is that Rossi?
Yep. She's a good space hipster, and we see her out getting astronaut autographs quite frequently.
Excellent. Steve Hammer.
Hey,
Welcome,
Steve.
Cliff Watson. It says 200 stars.
Yep, he gave us some money, and you guys need to start giving us stars. That's about $10.
Oh,
Cliff is in Pomona, Australia.
Jeez, welcome,
And,
y'all.
so how's Wednesday morning there, mate?
Yeah, you're way ahead of us there. Awesome.
How's your brekkie?
Thank you
having
for
eggs
tying
and
in.
bacon for brekkie?
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Dave Stange.
Stangy. He's one of our number one fans. He's up in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
And Rich.
Hard
Okay.
for me to say that.
Nice variety. It's from all over the world. This is awesome. And Carlton Bailey.
Yep. He's a rocket photographer.
Oh, okay.
He lives over there in nearby here.
Oh, excellent. Welcome, everybody.
yeah.
Thank you all, everybody, for tuning in. I really appreciate you taking the time to
Well,
do
we
that.
look forward to having you on in February. I've not done my homework to see all the shuttles of February, but we love going through them, and Mikey finding a mission or two to highlight. We'll have him back on to do that, just like we do Mr. Hugh Harris.
I think we got a very interesting one for
Oh,
February.
what? Okay, what is it?
You want me to tell you what we're
Sure,
thinking?
yeah.
Thinking of the TSS missions, tethered satellite missions.
Oh, yes, it's Tethered Satellite. Our
Had a
good friend
huge
Andy
involvement.
Allen, astronaut Andy Allen on those.
Yeah.
Another thing I don't know why they haven't continued on the space station.
Oh, tethered.
Yeah,
Very good question. That was
the generated electricity and all.
generated electricity, and there's some dynamics where if you use something on a tether, if you release that from the bottom, that releases energy, and you gain energy on what's released from. So it can almost like you can bump up your orbit a little bit if you had this huge mass in a tethered configuration, and you release it on the bottom. It actually that energy is transferred to the one on top, as well as generating electricity.
Yeah, I'm interested in the Tethered Satellite Experiment 2 missions. Andy Allen was a pilot on one, commander the other.
Yeah.
Great friend of our museum. He's been involved in the Artemis program here, so that would look forward to do that.
We'll try.
We'll pick out
We'll
a
shoot
date.
for tethered satellite. Yep.
And we've got Nick Thomas said he's ready to come back and share some of his knowledge about the shuttles of the month. And Terry White,
Oh yeah.
our
Good
payloads, or our OPF manager, orbital processing facility manager, all will be here in the months of February to help you all stay curious. So, Marty, good Streamlabs job today. We're still recovering from our astronaut memorial that was quite successful. You may see that on our YouTube channel. There's 2 segments to it. We had a little burp in the Wi-Fi, so. But astronaut Nicole Stott and the Jewish community from Miami had a great message to share about Elon Ramon and the other 16 astronauts we celebrated. So, Marty, we good?
Yep.
All right, buddy. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, Mikey, for being here again.
You're welcome, Mark. It's always a pleasure.
All right.
Thanks,
Well, I'm
thank you.
Marquette. We can't wait to see you again on Stay Curious to bridge the space between us.